Hello everyone, today we'll talk about football. This channel is Facts Are Facts, let's go! We all know what football is and how to play in it. This is the most popular game in the world, but at the moment, where and how he appeared. The first mention of the ball game with feet were recorded in China and ancient Rome before our era. The inhabitants of the Celestial Empire played with a round ball and square squares, while the Romans mostly used football not as entertainment but used it as a training exercise for warriors. In the 12th century AD, a ball game was born in England, much like football, which residents played on meadows, broads and squares, except kicking the ball. First kicks were also allowed. This early form of football was very rude and cruel than the modern version of the game. Besides, not 22 people participated in it as now, but whole crowd of people. The similar game with the same elements of cruelty was created in Florence in 16th century, and it was called calcio. The fear of such football amusements often caused significant damage to the streets of the city. Besides, participants were injured and some even died. Such games were banned for several centuries, and the history of football could have ended there. But already in the 17th century, ball games began to appear again on the street of London, and later football was used in public school altogether. But it took a lot of time for football to transform into the version that it is now. The fact is that in those days there was no difference between rugby and football. Besides, the game had different formation with different ball size, number of players, duration of the match, and so on. Which country considered the birthplace of football? The official origin of the game, an attempt to create uniform football rules, was made in 1848 in Cambridge, but some issues have not been resolved. Another important event in the history of football took place in London in 1863, when the first football association was formed in England and the first rules of the game were established. The consequences of the London meeting was that the ball game was divided into two groups, football and rugby. Thus, the world believes that December 8, 1863 the official date of the birth of football. It is England that is considered the birthplace of football. After the London meeting, an active progress of football development began. Gradually the rules of the game were created, and in general football as a sport became more interesting, since the teams no longer played primitively, having received the ball and driven it forward, but acted more variatively, shuffling with partners and performing other deceptive maneuvers with the ball. The appearance of the first football clubs. Football clubs have existed since the 15th century, but they didn't have an official status. Therefore, it is difficult to decide which club was created first. Some historians believe that the oldest football team was formed in Edinburgh in 1824, but officially in the world it is believed that the oldest football club is Sheffield, which was founded in 1857. The impetus for the creation of football teams was industrialization, which led to the appearance of large groups of people in factories, churches, and so on. Often teams were formed in large cities, and thanks to the construction of new railways, it became possible to hold matches between two teams from different cities. At first, public school clubs prevailed in England, but later the main part began to be made up of teams consisting of workers. Already at that time, some teams paid the best players of other teams to join them. Finally, in 1888, the Football League was established, which was the highest league in English football until 1992, until it became the Premier League. In the first season, the Football League consisted of 12 clubs, but soon the number of participants increased. Accordingly, competition has increased, as well as interest in matches from the audience. In Europe, British clubs dominated for a long time, and only a few decades later the teams from Hungary, Italy and the Czech Republic were able to play at the level and even better than the representatives from the foggy Albion. The history of the first football competitions. Before the Football League was formed in 1871, they began to play the FA Cup, which is the oldest football competition in the world. In 1892, the first in history was played an international match involving the national teams of England and Scotland, which ended in a draw, 0-0. 12 years later, in 1883, the first international tournament was held with the participation of the national teams of England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland. For a long time, football was exclusively a British phenomenon, but gradually spread to other European countries and then to other continents. So the first game played outside of the world took place in Argentina, but it was also played by British workers and not residents of a Latin American state. Following the example of England, other countries also football tournaments were gradually created as well as national teams were formed. On 21st of May 1904, the International Football Federation FIFA was founded in Paris. Its founders were France, Spain, the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark and Switzerland. The British, who didn't see the ground for joining FIFA, still became a member of the organization a year later. In 1908, football was included in the Olympic Games program. Until the first FIFA World Cup, football at the Olympic Games was rated as the most prestigious tournament in the world. As for the World Cup, the debut drawing took place in 1930 in Uruguay. Then the national teams of Uruguay and Argentina met in the final, and as a result the hosts of the competition won with a score of 4-2. June 15, 1954, after congratulations between the French, Italian and Belgian associations, the Union of European Football Associations (UEFA) was formed. Already in 1960, under the auspices of the first European Football Championship was held by UEFA, the winner of which was the national team of the Soviet Union, which beat Yugoslavia in the final. Okay, now you know the history of your favorite sports game. Subscribe to our channel, put likes and write different comments, and see you soon.